Hey everybody, I'm Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are watching The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards, fire up your fingers, and come join the conversation. Hi everybody, I'm Mike with Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are watching and or listening to The Right of the People. It is Friday, February 26th, 2021. And as always, we got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. But before we get into that, I want to welcome my wonderful, esteemed panel. We have the Tactical Pickle himself here with us tonight. Calaveras 32 Special, how are you, sir?
I'm doing just fine. I appreciate the invite there, Budget.
Hey, no problem, man. You are always welcome here, brother. And of course, speaking of always welcome, we have the one, the only, the irascible yet lovable Squiblode. How are you, sir?
I'm here. Is it okay if I say something before you get into the meat and potatoes?
Yeah, sure. It's always good to have an appetizer.
All right. So there's some people out there that seem to think that the fear-mongering that's been going on is, and whether it be for the bat flu or the shutdowns that were called lockdowns, or the rioting, or the stolen election, or all the gun control that's on its way, or take your pick about what it's been in the past 12 months that you want to say is the catalyst for the panic buying, for the shortages, especially when it comes to guns and ammo. But there isn't one thing that caused it. If you want to do something like just say, take fear-mongering and pick that and blame that and make the poster child for the reason you can't get your ammo at the local gun store, or everything's on back order online, or you can't find the gun that you're looking for, then you're really kind of looking at it from an ignorant perspective. Now, there is fear-mongering out there, all right? It's a tactic that's used. The gun rights organizations all use them, not just the NRA, all of them. It's to fill their coffers. It's also to get the guy I call Mr. Cheeto Man. That's the guy who sits on the couch eating Cheeto, holding his, AR-15 while we're all out there doing the work. You're very welcome, by the way. When somebody yells at the top of their lungs that this is the biggest fight of our life, it's like, really? I thought the fight last week was the biggest fight of our life, but whatever. That's the only way to get them off the couch, to either write a check or write their representative or do whatever they feel compelled to do in order to get involved. Then they go right back to sitting on the couch. So fear-mongering has a place. And for me, as somebody who chose to get active in this and has only gotten more and more over time, and I don't need that fear-mongering, it's kind of insulting. But I'm not ignorant and think that just because people are using their YouTube channels or these gun rights organizations are bloating your inbox with all this crap, that is the only reason why there are shortages right now. Now, somebody might say that this show uses fear-mongering, and
somebody has said that.
Well,
I've been accused of it.
I'm going to say that I think there is some on this show. However, my opinion of it is twofold. One, it's a hook. It's not the whole premise of the show. In my opinion, if it's the hook, kind of like using clickbait on a video, right? If that gets you to pay, give it a look, all right, what's wrong with the hook? But here's the difference between what someone who's not being objective might see this show as being fear-mongering as opposed to the real fear-mongering that's out there. This show has a panel, and this panel is allowed to speak their mind, except for when we have technical issues and Budget can't hear us and he walks all over us. But I digress. We have the ability to speak our mind. We're given the opportunity. We're given the opportunity to talk even if we disagree with the host. And other people have the ability to come onto this show and to speak their mind as well. Budget always says, be a part of the conversation. The real fear-mongering that's out there are the people that are all by themselves in front of the camera making a video. They're not doing a live show where you can comment live in the live chat. They're not doing a live show where the panelists have the ability to go, no, I don't agree with that. They're simply speaking into the camera. They're not allowing you to be a part of the conversation. They may get, 2,500 comments. You think they're going to stop and read all those comments? No, they're not. So this show has that interaction. And this show is not an echo chamber, unlike some shows where the only way you get on the show is if you're part of their little clique. So even though I've told Budget that I think he does some fear-mongering, I don't think he does it in the manner, to the severity, or with the intent of some of these other people that are on YouTube, these gun tubers, that are doing nothing more than what the NRA or the GOA or the 2AF or the FPC or fill in the blank with your acronym do. So I would not be on this show if I couldn't speak my mind. I am somebody who, I don't go against the grain because I'm trying to be different or I'm trying to get attention. I go against the grain because that's the way I've always been. I have my own opinion. I think for myself. I believe in critical thinking. And this show promotes that, unlike the fear-mongering where it's one person and one camera and they're not going to listen to your comments. So I just wanted to kind of get that out there, that although some people might perceive this in that way, if this was that sort of thing, I wouldn't be on this show. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you, Squib. You reminded me, because I'd forgot to add this in my little opening here. Welcome for your weekly dose of fear-mongering, folks. Because, yeah, I did get accused of that by someone in a comment. They accused me of being a fear-monger and said that I'm part of why we have shortages and all this other shit. And, I don't see what I do as fear-mongering. As Squib said, I throw out a hook, because you're not going to get, it does no good to put out a message, to put out information, to put out anything if you don't have an audience. And I want to get the audience to be listening, because if you notice, when we talk about these things like HR 127, the Sheila Jackson Lee, let's throw the entire pot of spaghetti against the wall and hope something sticks bill, we all know that's not going to get passed. But it's something that's going to get someone's attention. They get to watching the video, then we talk about it, and then go on to say, yeah, this thing in its entirety isn't going to get passed, but you have to watch out for this little piece, that little piece, the other little piece getting stuck into some other bill, which we all know happens. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'll throw out a little bit of bait, and I'll set a hook, I'll draw somebody in, and then we have a conversation. And that's how I see it. I think that the people fear-mongering, if there is such a thing, I think the people fear-mongering are doing it for financial gain. And I can tell you exactly what I make from the right of the people. Zip, zilch, nada, nothing, bupkis, shit, not a single thin dime. I don't monetize this. So I'm making nothing.
Is that why my checks keep bouncing and they keep coming in the form of rubber checks?
That's absolutely correct. I make nothing off of this chat. I do it because I think it's important to do, not because I have any financial stake in it. Although, if someone would wish to sponsor the chat, I certainly would shill. But, I'm not fear-mongering to drive up views and get the sweet, sweet AdSense revenue, because I don't monetize this. So, yeah.
With regard to the shortages, if you ever saw that movie, A Perfect Storm, three weather systems all collided to form the perfect storm. And it's a rare thing for all of these big weather systems to just come together. And that's what happened in 2020 and what's continuing to go on. It wasn't one thing that caused shortages. It was 7 things.
Yep.
Normally in a year, we have a shortage or on an election year, or when the economy's bad, or when the terrorists attack, or when legislation is passed, or when they think all the computers aren't going to work at midnight, or take your pick. When the housing bubble pops, we have shortages.
Yep.
Okay. We have panic buying. We have unexplained shortages sometimes. And we have some of the most ridiculous stuff going on. And sometimes it lasts months. Sometimes it lasts a year or two. But it's usually one item, two items. It's not everything. This year it's everything. But that's because we didn't have one thing creating that. So anybody who thinks fear-mongering is the single sole thing, they're not looking at all of the other contributing factors.
Civil unrest, election unease, pandemic panic. You know, those are just three right off the top of my head.
And you know, as far as the fear-mongering goes, sure, it does insult somebody like me because I'm not Cheeto Man. I don't need fear-mongering to get off the couch. But I also think that I think that if you get into this, if you get active in the fight, you'll start to see past that. Sure, you can tune it out and this, that, and the other, but be careful. Be careful on both sides. The person who says everything is fear-mongering and they decide to give it up, they're not helping. The person out there who everything is the biggest fight of our life, do you realize how many people you're going to turn away every time you say this is the most important? Everything cannot be the most important.
Nope.
So I think there's a responsibility by the people out there trying to draw attention to it, whether it be for money, which we all know a lot of people do it for money, or whether they do it for other reasons, and the people out there listening, for everybody to try to be objective and just do some critical thinking.
By the way, Diet Gold Peak, I would happily take a sponsorship from y'all because I drink this stuff pretty much every day. So holler at your boy. Speaking of hollering at, I want to say hello to everybody out there in the chat and thank you for coming on and listening to us talk about fear-mongering right off the rip. But that's okay. I think that was a conversation that needed to happen, and I appreciate the vote of confidence, Squib. Like to say hello to Squib, Calaveras, both of you guys were out there. Bo Weevil's wondering who the hell's Grandmaster Jay, leader of the Not Effing Around Coalition. We'll talk about him in a minute. Jason Stewart's out there. Bernabe Sanchez, the Hub 1964, Seven Wonders, Keith Gregory, Defense Dad, Tatas is in the house. Seven Wonders is saying, budget, featuring guest monologues now? Yes. Bernabe Sanchez says, diabetes in a jar. That's apparently talking about my Gold Peak, but this is Diet Gold Peak with no sugar. See, diet, no sugar, man. Cause I got the beatus. Can't have the sugar. So yeah. But anyhow, moving on, I want to say hello to everybody out there. If you're out there and you haven't said anything in the chat, say something so I can say hello. If you're listening to this on the replay, sound off in the comments below. Let me know what you think about the stuff we talk about tonight. I try to read every comment, and I might not be able to respond to everything, but I try. Because, you know, I have not gotten anywhere near big enough to where I can ignore crap like that. So, yeah. I like to have this conversation because this is a conversation. This is a two-way dialogue. It is not just me spewing forth and talking to you guys. It's us, my panel and I, talking with you guys, and I think that's an important distinction. If you're listening to this in the podcast world, well, you know, stop in and say hi sometime when you're live, or come search it out on the YouTube channel and at Budget Guns and Gear Reviews on YouTube, and comment on the replay below. So, yes. Carly Ellison's in the house. Hello, how are you? A-Dub says, will there be a shortage of fear-mongering in 2021? Probably not. There will probably be a surplus of fear-mongering, and I'm sure that I'll be accused of contributing my fair share out to it. So, you know, hey, why not?
Eventually, we're going to come out of the ammo shortage, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to take a lot longer than it has in the past, and it's just something that we're going to have to deal with.
That's it. I think I feel a fearmonger t-shirt or sticker or hat or something coming to my Spreadshirt shop.
Oh, that would be nice.
I'm going to have to. YouTube fearmonger. I'm going to have to do that. Thank you for the idea. Yes. If you do want to support the channel and you don't want to do Patreon or any of that garbage, hey, that's cool. Head on over to the Spreadshirt. I got some stuff over there. There should be a link somewhere below in the description to that. If there's not, I'll chuck one in a comment. So, yeah. Speaking of stuff, let's go ahead and get into our topics right off the bat. Well, not really right off the bat because we've been sitting here yammering about shit for a while. Yeah. First up is this piece from Bearing Arms. NFAC head indicted on federal charges for pointing gun at officers. This is by Cam Edwards from February 25th, 2021. The self-proclaimed leader of the Not Effing Around coalition is now facing federal charges after he was indicted by a grand jury in Louisville, Kentucky for allegedly pointing a rifle at police officers last September. 57-year-old Grandmaster Jay Johnson was first arrested last December, but a grand jury handed down an official indictment against the man on Wednesday. Johnson and hundreds of other protesters marched for Taylor and rallied outside Churchill Downs during Derby weekend. Johnson allegedly brandished and aimed an AR platform rifle at an FBI agent, a Secret Service agent, and 3 LMPD officers while they were on the roof of a downtown building about 8:30 p.m. September 4th, the night before Derby, according to a federal complaint. Well, he's lucky he didn't end up springing some leaks right then. A police radio transmission had reported 6 to 8 heavily armed individuals were parked on Armory Place next to the parking garage structure, and the officers went to the roof of the building, per the complaint. 3 of the officers on the roof were blinded by a light, which they shortly thereafter determined was a flashlight mounted to the rifle being aimed at them by Johnson, according to the complaint. The FBI reviewed real-time crime center camera footage taken from the MetroSafe building, according to the complaint, with 2 screenshots of the incident included in the criminal file. Here in Kentucky, we revere our First and Second Amendment freedoms, not foolishness which puts police and protesters at grave risk, then U.S. Attorney Russell Coleman said in a statement following Johnson's arrest. The FBI respects the rights of individuals to peacefully exercise their First Amendment rights, Coleman continued. Our mission of protecting the American people and upholding the Constitution is dual and simultaneous, not contradictory. Accordingly, we are committed to investigating violent behavior and those who are exploiting legitimate, peaceful protests and engaging in violations of federal law. In addition to the federal charges, which carry a potential 20-year federal prison sentence, Johnson is also facing 5 counts of first-degree wanton endangerment in district court in Louisville that stem from the same incident on Derby weekend. The Louisville Courier-Journal notes that a Change.org petition calling for charges to be dropped claims that Johnson didn't know who was top of the parking garage when pointed his rifle and flashlight at the officers, and he was only attempting to verify the safety of everyone with his actions by pointing a rifle at people. The petition signers, who call themselves We the People, said Johnson planned several peaceful events in Louisville last summer without any arrests of members of the NFAC. No, just some accidental woundings. Johnson has always made sure he has had the proper permits and licenses to have his events and peacefully assemble within the confines of all local, state, and federal laws, the petition said. In a December interview posted on YouTube, Johnson said he is fighting both his federal and state cases. You all know they're doing this to break me financially because they're going to drag it out, he said. They're going to throw everything they have at me because we know this whole thing is bull shit, I would imagine. On the surface, Johnson's cry that his prosecution is bullshit appears to have some merit, but according to an affidavit filed by an FBI agent last December, the NFAC leader was well aware that police would be monitoring the protests in downtown Louisville from nearby rooftops. According to a criminal complaint filed by FBI agent Daniel McNally, surveillance cameras in the downtown area captured the head of the NFAC pointing his rifle at officers on top of the grand jury building. Was Johnson aware that law enforcement officers were on the roof of the building when he pointed his rifle in their direction? McNally's affidavit certainly implies that's the case, noting that the NFAC leader had been told in briefings with local police that officers would be on rooftops of surrounding buildings, and that a major with the Louisville Metro Police Department had admonished Johnson not to point weapons at the officers as it would be perceived as a threat. The affidavit also reveals that the FBI had been keeping an eye on Johnson and the NFAC since late May of this year, when Johnson proclaimed in a series of YouTube videos that people should assault police officers and then remove the officers' body cameras to conceal footage of them assaulting officers, and that the only way to stop police violence is to identify and locate the homes of police, burn the houses to the ground, kill the officer, their family members, and associates. I'm somewhat surprised that Johnson was never charged with inciting violence based on his comments last year, but the charges he's now facing are serious enough that he could be locked up for decades if he's convicted. At the moment, Johnson is relying on a public defender to represent him at his next court hearing on March 17th, but maybe he can ask Vice President Kamala Harris to tweet out a link to help support his legal defense fund. I support Johnson's Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms, though I don't agree with his politics, but sweeping his rifle across the rooftop of a parking garage when he had good reason to believe that the individuals standing there were law enforcement was a supremely dumb idea. Should it result in a 20-year prison sentence? At the moment, it looks like it'll be up to a jury of Johnson's peers to decide, but to me, it would be a punishment that doesn't fit the crime. If a violent felon is caught in illegal possession of a firearm, he could be looking at 10 years behind bars, but Johnson could do twice as much time for what amounts to an incredibly dumb mistake. So, there you have it, folks. Grandmaster Jay has been indicted on federal charges for pointing his rifle at federal officers, FBI agent and Secret Service agent, and local PD, when he had reason to believe that cops were going to be up on the rooftops. Not just reason to believe. He was told they were going to be there in briefings with the police. So, yeah, let's point our rifle at cops. I say the guy's lucky to be alive.
Yes, and I think Grandmaster Jay took the stupidity knob and turned it up to 11.
12. Spinal Tap told him it was too loud. What do you guys think? Do you think he deserves 20 years?
I didn't realize that pointing at a federal officer carried more weight than a felon in possession, which I think more what that speaks to is that felon in possession needs to have have its minimum upped. But I don't know, with all the stuff that this Jackoff has done recently, and I think taking him down a peg's not a half bad idea. 20 years, I don't know.
Seven Wonders says, for folks who missed it at the beginning, Jay actually ran for POTUS in 2016. No kidding, look it up. A-Dub says, good thing his Bolt didn't slam forward and go full auto on his bullpup. Yeah, no kidding. New York Outcast says, sounds like he should have gotten some training. Seven says, Jay is dangerous. Seriously, he shouldn't be in public. And that's the thing. I think the guy is dangerous, not from necessarily being a wild-eyed radical who is trying to foment rebellion and insurrection, even though he kind of is, but just through blatant stupidity and the fact that even more stupid people follow him. That's what boggles my mind. Who the hell would follow this guy? Well, apparently there's a bunch of them.
You've got to be kidding. Do you know how many people watch some of these gun channels that are giving out crappy advice and crappy information, but they got all these views and all these subscribers and all this? There are people out there that just want to be told what to do, what to think. They don't want to take the time to go, what is this asshat talking about? This isn't real. This isn't true. This isn't, and it's not just guns, but I'm using our community as an example. There are tons of people out there that they've got the charisma, or people give them more credit than what they deserve, or what have you. I mean, look at how much stuff our politicians get away with, or look at all these these celebrities, they're dumber than a bag of hammers, but because they're celebrities, people hang on every single word. So he's just using that I don't know, is it cult of personality? I don't know, but that's all it is.
Rob out there, New York Outcast, says, I think 20 years is too much. We all know if the officer was in any real fear, they would have lit him up. And I agree. I think 20 years is too much. I don't think he should go to jail for it. I do think he should, at least for some time, God, I hate to say this. I really do. It gripes my soul to say this, but I think maybe he needs to be evaluated and not have any guns for a while until he can demonstrate that he has some shred of responsibility, because to me, he has proven that he is not responsible with firearms. But that's me. But I don't think he should go to prison for this. I think, yeah, stupid should hurt, but I don't think it should hurt that much. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below if you're watching this on replay, or if you're listening in podcast format. Go on over to YouTube, Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and leave a comment below on this video and let me know. What do you think? Do you think he deserves to be in prison, or should he get off with something lighter? And or should he have his 2A rights suspended at least, or straight up taken? Let me know. The Hub says, take all his money. That would hurt him more than anything else. Carly Ellison says, those among us who have not swept LE may cast the first stone. I guess I'm chucking rocks because I have never muzzle swept law enforcement. Ever.
Yeah, I don't. It's never occurred to me to.
Yeah.
I don't even know that you should have quantified that by reading it.
Well, you know, it's a comment, it's a conversation, and
I guess, you know, but I mean, okay.
Yep. I have never muzzle swept law enforcement. I have been muzzle swept by law enforcement. Of course, if it's an intentional pointing, then I guess it's not a muzzle sweep, right? But yeah, I've had that happen. That's one way I found out that getting guns pointed at me doesn't make me scared. It just pisses me off. But that's a story for another time.
That's right. I can't say unequivocally I've never muzzle swept, law enforcement, because out hunting and whatnot. I have been looking through a scope that like, okay, nope, that's not something I can shoot. And then a couple minutes later, had a game warden come come
Carly,
by. So I can't say
by the way, I'm sorry, Pickle. 1 second. I just want to confirm this while I'm thinking about it, while I see it. Carly does confirm that was in fact a joke. So good. Please continue, Pickle.
Try an LOL at the end, because we all read it monotone.
Okay. Yes, that is.
I apologize.
That is a good clarification. But that's for so I can't 100%, being that like I said, when you're okay, I think that's something legal. So you looking through your scope, and then you confirm, okay, nope, it's not. So you put the rifle down, and then game warden shows up, a couple minutes later. I can't 100% equivocally say that they weren't over in that general direction, but it wasn't intentionally being aimed at a person. It was being
I'm very surprised.
A deer or a bear or something like that I thought was legal, and then ended up not being legal.
I'm very surprised you don't carry a small pair of binoculars or a monocular just for that purpose. Because I do.
It does, I do for the, but that's for my scope has a little bit higher magnification, so I get a general idea of it, and then I'll, then I settle in and wait for for the shot to open up, and then I realized it wasn't a legal animal, so I put the rifle down.
Okay. You carry binoculars when you go hunting to make sure that it's not a person?
It's a glass, yeah. If I see something and I can't quite make it out, I don't want to put a muzzle pointed at something that I don't know what it is. So I'll glass that area, and then.
You guys hunt on public land, don't you?
Yes.
Yes.
That's why. Okay.
As well as the range, I can't speak for Ohio, but that's for the ranges that I'm dealing with out here in the Sierra Nevadas. That's where 100 yards is considered extremely short, and 200 plus is pretty common depending on where you're at. So, naked eye doesn't cut it at those distances.
I just can't see worth a shit. So we don't do much long range in Ohio. Not where I live. There's a whole lot of hills and shit. Zudak, which, welcome to the show. I've never heard that username out there, so welcome. Please, I'm glad you've decided to be part of the conversation. Anyhow, Zudak says, 20 years sounds crazy to me. Suspending 2A rights on a free man also sounds crazy. How about we settle for 90 days and a fine? Call in the lawyers. I could be okay with that. I don't know. I think this guy is dangerous, and I don't know if he, again, it gripes my soul to even say that. So, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't really want anyone's 2A rights taken from him, but man, this guy is just an asshat. And, he needs to learn that it's not it's definitely not acceptable to be muzzle sweeping people to try to see who they are. That's why you carry a flashlight in your pocket and don't rely on the one on your rifle for shit like that.
Yeah, as a general rule, I think if you're too dangerous to have a firearm, you're probably too dangerous to be walking the streets. That's where, so it's kind of a,
yeah.
If you're out, as a free person, then you should be able to have it. If you're too dangerous to be out as a free person, or too dangerous for the firearm, maybe you shouldn't be a free person.
Yeah. I don't know. Even stupid people have the right to bear arms. So, maybe you guys are right, and I'm just, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong there. Yeah, there. I said it.
This isn't a case of somebody who doesn't have agendas and a history getting wrongfully accused or being made into an example. Well, this is a shitbag getting what he asked for.
There's that too. Bernabe Sanchez says, a danger to himself and some of the people in this group shouldn't be allowed to carry a slingshot. Just saying. Well, yeah, they've proven that too, right? Of course, so far, they've only been a danger to each other. So, hey. All right, next up, we have this piece. This is from the U.S. Concealed Carry Association. The USCCA sends a letter to President Biden urging support for national concealed carry reciprocity. West Bend, Wisconsin. On behalf of more than 550,000 members of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association, President and founder Tim Schmidt sent a letter to President Biden today urging him to consider a new path on common sense gun law reforms with the goal of keeping Americans safe by ensuring they can protect their families and loved ones at all times. The letter comes in the wake of a recent statement by President Biden that called on Congress to pass a range of new gun laws that the USCCA said today would do virtually nothing to reduce crime or help more Americans keep their families safe. Then it has a link to read the full letter to President Biden. And I think I will do that because I've seen some places where people have said that the USCCA did something horrible and egregious in this letter, and they said something that they shouldn't have said, and this and that and the other. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the letter, and you guys can judge for yourselves, because I'm not going to fearmonger and tell you that something was horrible. You figure it out. You're all intelligent people. So let's check this out. This is the letter from the USCCA to President Biden. February 23rd, 2021. President Joseph R. Biden, the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, etc. Dear Mr. President, On behalf of the more than 550,000 members of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association, USCCA, of which I'm one, and the more than 500 employees at our Wisconsin headquarters and around the country, I'm writing in response to your recent call for common sense gun law reforms. While we can agree that there are several common sense and long overdue changes needed to our nation's gun laws, we firmly believe that the path forward should be focused on supporting and protecting responsible law-abiding Americans, not criminalizing and punishing them. And I think this is the paragraph to which people are objecting. But to misquote The Princess Bride, I don't think this paragraph means what they think it means. So, I'm talking about the people who are going, "Brrr!" So let's continue reading. Sadly, the anti-gun proposals you've laid out thus far, both as a candidate and in your recent February 14th statement, would do virtually nothing to reduce crime or help more Americans keep their families safe. It's deeply troubling to witness you using the solemn anniversary of the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School shootings to advocate for new gun laws that, even had they been in place 3 years ago, would have done nothing to stop those heinous murders. You called on Congress to pass a law requiring universal background checks, but pointedly failed to note that the murderer purchased his firearm legally and passed a background check. Further, your proposal last year to impose a new tax on millions of gun owners would disproportionately harm working-class Americans who can least afford it during these difficult economic times. Lower-income Americans should not be forced to choose between protecting their families and breaking the law, or handing over their firearms to the government and leaving their homes unprotected. If you are truly interested in advocating for common-sense gun law reforms that are grounded in reality rather than anti-gun political ideology, we urge you to consider a new path with the goal of keeping Americans safe by ensuring that they can protect their families and loved ones at all times. It has been demonstrated time and again that criminals, by definition, have no respect for our laws, and so the focus should be on supporting those law-abiding Americans who choose to protect. The fundamental right to protect oneself and one's family appeals to all Americans and cuts through party lines. We see that every day at the U.S. Concealed Carry Association, where we proudly have hundreds of thousands of members from all across the political spectrum. In the past year, nearly 5 million new gun owners have joined the more than 100 million Americans who already own guns. Record numbers of Americans have been purchasing firearms to keep themselves and their loved ones safe, and the number of gun owners seeking self-defense education and training is at an all-time high. Women and minorities are now leading the way as the fastest-growing groups of concealed carry permit holders in the country, as well as membership at the USCCA. Each of these responsible, law-abiding Americans has stepped forward to take responsibility for protecting his or her loved ones in an increasingly chaotic world. Yet our government's antiquated patchwork of concealed carry laws is putting them at risk. How is it common sense that a law-abiding American who has passed a background check and is legally allowed to carry a firearm in Virginia is subject to arrest and imprisonment if he or she steps foot over the state line into Maryland? How is it common sense to tell parents that they should avoid air travel during the COVID-19 pandemic and travel by car with their families if necessary, but they're not allowed to protect themselves depending on which states they drive through? In short, there is nothing common sense about America's patchwork of concealed carry laws, and that is why we need national concealed carry reciprocity, where state-issued concealed carry permits are treated just like driver's licenses. The U.S. Concealed Carry Association exists to help responsible Americans avoid danger, save lives, and keep their families safe, and we believe that our elected leaders in Washington have an incredible obligation to pursue these same goals. That's why Congress and your administration should support the most responsible citizens of this nation, concealed carry permit holders, and help ensure that they can protect themselves and their families at all times. National concealed carry reciprocity, not higher taxes or more stringent regulations on already responsible gun owners, and certainly not removing the means by which those responsible gun owners can defend themselves and their loved ones, is a truly common sense reform that will help more Americans keep their families safe. We urge you to support it. Sincerely, Tim Schmidt, USCCA President and Founder. So please, people, those of you who were going, they support common sense gun law reforms, tell me exactly where they did anything wrong with that letter, because to me, that was perfectly fine and common sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why not? That was virtue signaling, if I ever heard it.
Explain.
Okay. None of the things that they asked for, Joe Biden will ever support. If anything, they woke up Sleepy Joe and he goes, "Oh yeah, we were gonna do that tax and take away this right." Okay.
He ain't
You
never
don't-
forgot about that.
Whatever. This is them.
Okay, it is Joe
reaching-
Biden. Maybe he did. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, because he's got dementia. But this is them reaching out to their current members and potential new members saying, see, we're doing something. They're National Concealed Carry Insurance and Training. They're not political group X. This is their, hey, let's do what the NRA is doing kind of thing. Now, I'm not saying they don't have a right to move the company in that direction. All right, if that's what they want to do. And this is what it looks like they're building a foundation for. But here's the thing. They were saying they're okay with concealed carry permits. And for some people, despite the fact that they may actually possess a concealed carry permit in their state, they don't agree with concealed carry permits. And to them, Joe Biden or anybody in his administration, any of these anti-gun, anti-freedom leftards are reading this, and they're reading it. The person who's in our group is trying to read it through their eyes and saying, this is telling them we're okay with permits. Do you see where I'm going? You may read it as somebody who's pro 2A who goes, yeah, we've had to deal with permits forever, and I like not having to fill out a 4473. A lot of guys get a permit, or gals, whatever, people get permits just so they ain't got to fill out the 40 or wait for the next check, I should say. You fill out the 4473. You don't wait for the next check. Whatever. Get it for whatever freaking reason you want. But the whole thing is, and I've had a permit before, and we'll probably have a permit again in the future. But I think when you're talking to an anti-gun politician, anything that you remind them of, in my opinion, is a bad idea. And anything that you justify, and you might say they weren't justifying it, read it as if you're Joe Biden. Read it as if you're Kamala Harris. Read it as if you're Circleback Chick. Read it as if you're Anthony Fauci. I don't care. Read it as if you're one of them. Step out of your pro-Second Amendment boots and step into your anti-gun slippers and read it. And you'll see it right there where it says, we're good with permits. That's what people are complaining about.
Interesting take. Pickle, do you have any thoughts?
No, not on this particular subject, sorry.
Well, folks, again, if you're listening in the replay, let me know below. What do you think? Did the USCCA step in it, or was it a perfectly reasonable letter? Do you think that Squibb's theory on that is 100% spot on, or is this all a nothing burger? Because honestly, I think that this letter does absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I think it's
dissuade
virtue
Joe
signaling.
Biden. I think you're absolutely right on that. It is a virtue signaling thing, but you know, yeah.
But it'd be interesting. Why not just keep an eye on the USCCA, and let's just see if they start getting more political, or they try to get people more active. I'm not saying what they do is wrong. I think they bring something good to the table, but maybe they're trying to diversify.
Yeah, and I would like to see another organization get involved politically instead of just do the training and education and the insurance thing that they do.
What if this was them putting their toe in the pool to see if this increases membership, and if it does, then they run with it?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'd like to welcome Ozzy Osbourne out there. See him barking in the chat, and Ghost has materialized out there. So hello, Ghost. How you doing? Let's see. New York Outcast. Oh, sucks to live there. Says I had to get a permit and still got to fill out a 4473 and get it approved by my local sheriff. Ouch. Yeah, you're gonna have to fill out the 4473 wherever you go.
Yeah,
if you buy from a gun dealer. But the NICS check, yeah, we don't have to do the NICS check here in Ohio. It's, of course, that's at the FFL's discretion. they can choose not to force you to do the NICS check if you have a valid concealed carry license.
I know people who got a concealed carry permit in Michigan so that they don't have to wait for the NICS check, which takes 5 whole freaking minutes, and so that they don't have to get a form from the police department to sell a handgun owner to owner. Because in this state, we have a handgun registry. I can sell a handgun to another owner, but if they don't have a concealed pistol license, I have to get paperwork from the police department. If they have a CPL, I don't need crap. And I know people who've gotten it just for that. That's it.
How wretched and vomitous. Zudek says
it is, but not. Because here's the thing. It existed before I was ever even old enough to buy a gun, and they've never used it. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying I like it, but I'd like to see us get constitutional carry in this state before I put any effort into, getting rid of the registration. I'd like the registration to go away, but it's low on the totem pole.
That is a horrific, onerous infringement.
I mean, it is if they exercised it, but it's kind of a hassle when you're selling a handgun. But otherwise, no, there's nothing to it.
Zudak says, I have constitutional carry in my state. If they don't take that away, I think national reciprocity is a step in the right direction. Good marketing for USCCA, too. Yeah, it's definitely a good marketing tool. Speaking of tools, apparently Canada's full of them in their leadership, because our cousins to the north, they might have some bad things coming. This is from the Gun Feed. Canada gun confiscation in the coming months by NSSF's Larry Keane. The Great Northern Gun Grab is about to begin. The United States' northern neighbor is bracing for a firearm confiscation. What would seem unthinkable just a couple years ago is now planned to radically shift gun ownership on America's doorstep in just weeks. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that sweeping new gun control laws would be coming in the months that would drastically change how firearms are controlled in Canada. The Liberal Party leader made the unilateral announcement that the government would confiscate more than 1,500 makes and models of firearms under an expanded assault weapon definition. It's an estimated 150,000 to 200,000 firearms. Prime Minister Trudeau fulfilled his ill-advised promise by announcing the introduction of a bill in Canada's Parliament, labeled C-21, that would usher in crushing gun restrictions. Included in the bill is everything from a provision to allow anyone to petition to a police chief to revoke a firearm license and the courts to seize firearms for up to 30 days. The bill includes a magazine ban for handguns with a capacity greater than 10 rounds and centerfire rifle magazines with a capacity greater than 5 rounds. It would impose a strict regimen for those who choose not to participate in the confiscation program, with onerous and nearly impossible requirements to keep their firearms. A 2-year amnesty period for owners of these now banned firearms will expire in April 2022. The biggest concern of this gun control push is the outright confiscation of firearms by the government. However, this is using Canadian taxpayer funds for the government to buy back something it never owned in the first place. By the government, the Prime Minister Trudeau and his allies are labeling it as a government buyback. However, it's using Canadian taxpayer funds to buy what they never owned. More shocking is that no government official will put a price tag on what this would cost. Public Safety Minister Bill Blair said the government will have a better picture of the cost when it knows how many owners want to sell their firearms and for how much, according to Canadian Broadcasting Channel report. Minister Blair guessed it would run between $300 to $400 million if 150 to 200,000 gun owners demand $1,300 per firearm. Minister Blair earlier pegged the cost at $600 million. Critics argue the cost would be much higher. Those critics were right about Canada's previous gun registration scheme being a colossal failure with an enormous price tag. That was pitched at costing only $2 million, but ran over $2.7 billion before being scrapped. The same critics are pointing to New Zealand's confiscation model and saying realistic estimates put the Canadian cost at $1.6 to $5 billion in just the first year. That's just administrative costs, not including the bounty Prime Minister Trudeau would pay for each firearm. Canadians who don't participate in surrendering their firearms to the government will be forced to endure a rigorous set of rules and inspections to keep their firearms while they can and while they're alive. Those who don't hand over their firearms could keep them under strict conditions to not use, import, further acquire, sell, or bequeath them. Those individuals would also be required to complete the Canadian Restricted Firearms Safety Course and upgrade their licenses to a restricted possession and acquisition license. Of course, this would incur all associated course and license fees, along with registering any firearms with the firearms registrar, complying with enhanced storage requirements, and periodically providing information on firearm storage to ensure compliance. But wait, there's more. The proposed confiscation law would be so much more than just a gun grab. It would also give municipalities the option of enacting their own local ban on handguns. Some local laws might not go that far. Local laws might only regulate home storage of handguns, requiring them to be stored at shooting clubs and ranges. This would create a patchwork of differing gun control laws and pitfalls for Canadian gun owners. Enforcement would become a nightmare. Matt DeMille of Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters told the CBC adopting measures across the province in a patchwork is going to be very difficult for people to understand. Conservative public safety critic Shannon Stubbs added, "This part of the bill doesn't address the major problem, which is the illicit use of illegal guns in crime." Another provision in the bill would make it illegal to advertise a firearm that depicts violence against a person. Read strictly, that would make it a crime to advertise a gun as a self-defense tool. Instead of taking on the criminals who misuse firearms, Prime Minister Trudeau would lock up advertisers who tell his citizens they don't have to be willing victims and can use firearms to defend themselves. This sounds like a dystopian fairy tale, but the reality is this is happening on the doorstep of the United States. Minister Blair made it clear why Prime Minister Trudeau is able to get away with it. Gun ownership in Canada, in this country, is a privilege and not a right, Mr. Blair explained to Canada's Global News. It's a privilege that's predicated on the strict adherence to our laws, our regulations, and our restrictions. That's not stopping opponents from saying Prime Minister Trudeau is overstepping. The Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police said it won't support a plan for handgun bans. Vancouver Police Chief Adam Palmer heads the organization and previously said there are laws against the illegal use of handguns. Further gun control laws won't solve this problem. Manitoba Premier Brian Pallister said the handgun ban is not going to work. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe is critical of Prime Minister Trudeau's gun grabs. Alberta Premier Jason Kennedy denounced the moves for targeting law-abiding gun owners and not criminals. Ontario's Premier Doug Ford said the national government should focus on enforcing laws and putting criminals behind bars, not seizing guns from law-abiding citizens. In light of President Joe Biden's gun control wish list, it's worth noting the importance of the 27 words of the Second Amendment. It's also worth watching the cost of dollars and rights and an out-of-control gun control agenda can do to a nation's citizens. So, budget. This is Canada. Why the hell are we talking about this? This show is focused on the United States. Well, we're talking about this because this is a cautionary tale to me. Canada is much farther down the the gun control path than the United States is. But it's an example of, well, this is why we need gun control. We have to act now. Let's go ahead and do this. And then our problems will be solved. And a little bit later, but you know what? This come up, and now we need more gun control, and that'll solve our problem. And then a little bit later, but we need more gun control, and that'll solve our problems. And a little bit later, we need more gun control. It is an example of an illustration of how this little bit of gun control is never, ever, ever enough for the anti-gunners. It's not enough in Canada. Do you really think it'll be enough here? This is why you have to resist actively and with every fiber of your being, even the smallest infringement on our Second Amendment rights. Because if we allow that to happen a little bit now, guaranteed tomorrow they're going to come back and want a little bit more. And then they're going to want a little bit more. And then they're going to want a little bit more. If you didn't like bump stocks, you still should have fought to keep them. Why? Because it's that first little bit. Well, actually, it's far from the first little bit, but you understand what I mean. It's going to be something else next, and it's going to be something else next, and it's going to be something else next. And we have to resist now, and we have to resist always, or they're going to gain way too much traction, and they're going to gain way too much ground. It'll be that much harder for us to resist when it's something that you care about. I don't know. Am I wrong on that, guys?
Sounded spot on to me.
I live closer to Canada than either one of you.
Yes, you do.
I don't give a shit what they do over in Canada. They use the metric system. We didn't adopt that crap. They got universal health care. We didn't adopt that crap. All right? I just don't. I just, now I have to have an enhanced driver's license or a passport to go across the border, whereas before I didn't need that shit. I haven't been there since, oh boy, last century, Look, these Canadians, there are some that are conservative, et cetera, but they're not active. They're not active, and there's a lot of frustrated Canadians. I mean, I used to talk to people that at work that drove over from Ontario every day, frustrated. Some of them got their American citizenship because they were sick of the crap over there. They would rather live free over here than live for free over there, even though it's not really the taxes and everything else. But a lot of people move to Canada from other countries for the free health care. That's one of the reasons we should never go with free healthcare like they have in Europe and other places, because you just end up getting all these people. If you think all the illegals coming across the border from Mexico are bad, you just wait till what happens when our taxes go up to 52% and we all have free government healthcare. But that's just it. You can look at that stuff in Canada and learn from it. But I honestly don't think anything they propose in Canada would pass here.
Not now, no.
Not ever. No.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't think at first the Canadians thought that either. But they got incremental to death.
Okay, the Canadians are really extra nice and laid back. And they let this happen. Okay? If the only people that are nicer than Canadians are people from Nebraska. All right? They are so laid back. I have never met an uptight, involved Canadian in my life. They are laid back. They may be aware of what's going on and they may bitch, but they won't fight for it.
It's too
Here
cold
in
to
America,
get excited about
we'll
anything.
fight for it.
Zudek says U.S. politicians speak about gun control just the same, as if it's a privilege for law-abiding citizens only. Then they proceed to propose laws to turn you into a criminal. Yep. I don't know. I will maintain that watching what happens in Canada is a good indicator of what they want to do here, and is a good illustration of why we have to resist what they're doing here with every step, every fiber of our being, every day.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah, it's not so much that I have a dog in the Canadian fight. You know what I mean? I'm not Canadian, eh? But I see what's happening to them and what has happened to them, and it's an illustration of why we need to fight like hell to keep it from happening here, because that's what we will become if we don't do something about it.
Look, if they want to socially engineer us to be as passive as the Canadians, they're going in the right direction. All right. The whole welfare thing, and the government does everything for you, and don't question this, and on and on and on. Yeah, that's what they have in Canada. That's what they've always had in Canada. So if they socially engineer America to do that, then yes, they can take the Second Amendment from us, because we'll just be like, okay, but it's just not like that here. I'm not saying that it's not a bad idea, or that it's that it's a bad idea to watch what's going on there or any other country. It isn't, but I don't think it's just going to creep across the border like the bat flu did. I think it's something where the other things our government is trying to do will lead us to turn into Canada.
Yeah. Can't argue with that. Before we go further, I want to take a little break and be somewhat self-serving and commercial here. Not that, it's actually going to be a commercial. But for those of you who are in the Northeast Ohio region, or near Northeast Ohio, or can be near Northeast Ohio on April 17th, stop. You know what, Fox? Stop that. I don't want to. No. See? That wasn't what I was talking about. Sorry about that. Stupid pop-up ad. Anyhow, those of you who are going to be around the Northeast Ohio area on April 17th, I'm going to be teaching a basic survival workshop. I've partnered with my local gun store where I teach concealed carry classes, and gonna put on a class. It's a one-day class starting at 8 a.m. and ending whenever we're done, because it's objective-based, not time-based, showing people how to assemble an emergency kit, what to put in it, and how to use the stuff to keep your ass alive and if you happen to get stranded somewhere. So if you want to come check that out, there is a link down in the description below, and I will chuck a link out in the chatteroo. That'll take you to my website, where it'll then send you to the Spoon, CCW, and Armory to go sign up if you want to. So I'm going to put a more detailed post and probably a video out in the near future to kind of explain it in more in depth. But yeah, go check that out. Come hang out with me, and we'll do some woodsy type shit, right? Anyhow, this next up, I guess I can tell you, mongering is over for this week. Is this post from FoxNews.com? Indiana House votes to eliminate license to carry a handgun in state. The Indiana House voted Monday to eliminate the license to carry a handgun in the state, an apparent victory, at least temporary, for supporters of Second Amendment gun rights. House Bill 1369, which passed the House by a 65-31 vote and now heads to the Senate, repeals a law that requires a person to obtain a license to carry a handgun in Indiana, according to the Indianapolis Star. It allows for any person who is lawfully able to carry and possess a firearm to do so without a government-issued permit or license, reports said. The bill specified that certain offenders still could be prohibited from carrying handguns. Supporters of the bill argued that the permit process punishes law-abiding citizens, and residents shouldn't have to pay for a right guaranteed by the Second Amendment. Anything that can make things easier for somebody who is a law-abiding citizen is always something that I think I'm going to try to support, said Indianapolis gun owner Eric Hausman, according to Fox 59 of Indianapolis. Police, however, argued that eliminating screening processes would put more guns on the streets, making communities less safe. I think we're all very strong supporters of the Second Amendment, said Lafayette Police Chief Patrick Flannelly with the Indiana Association of Chiefs of Police. By repealing processes like this that are good screening mechanisms, we're going to put more guns out on the street, and there are going to be people that should not be carrying them will be carrying them. I would say that the people who should not be carrying them are carrying them anyway.
Yeah,
Now
that's about the most ignorant thing for somebody who's supposed to be experienced in law enforcement to say.
Yeah.
Politically
That's
motivated.
asinine. Exactly. Currently, to apply for a new Indiana license to carry a handgun, you have to be 18 or older, register online, schedule an appointment to have your fingerprints taken, and complete local law enforcement agency processing within 180 days. This bill is for the lawful citizen of the state of Indiana, said bill authored Representative Ben Schmaltz, a Republican. This bill is for the person who obeys our laws, who right now has to jump over the hurdles to be the person that gets the permit. Out of the more than 120,000 handgun license applicants in 2020, nearly 4% were denied, according to state data. Flannelly said his department denied 55 people from getting carry permits last year based on their background check. We're going to remove a tool from our law enforcement officers to help make communities safer and actually help keep our police officers safer, he told the station. The licenses raise $5.3 million per year to train local law enforcement officers, and taxpayers will be forced to partially pick up the bill, the paper reported. Critics also argue that it won't be easy for police to check if someone is allowed to carry a firearm, or check on those who try to carry when they aren't supposed to, according to the Indianapolis Star. And how exactly do you do that now anyway? It will be the same. The bill would eliminate the license in March 2022. Yeah, that was one of the most ignorant statements I should have put that.
You make the concealed carry permit available, but you don't make it a requirement in your state. If you already meet the requirements to own a gun, you should be able to carry a gun. Open, concealed, it doesn't matter. Now, you say, well, then nobody would ever get a concealed carry permit. Not true, because once again, we go back to the whole bypassing the NICS, or if you live in a state like mine, making it faster to do an owner-to-owner transaction, or reciprocity with other states. Yep. You cross the border out of your state where you don't need a permit, but you can get a permit, and you're concealed carrying in that neighboring state, and they don't honor your constitutional carry. Yep. So there are plenty of people who still get a permit for those law enforcement people or those anti-gun people or just those clueless people that seem to think this card makes a difference.
Yeah.
It's what's in your heart. It's not whether you got a gun on you or not. It's what's in your heart. And the card can't determine that. Like you were saying, the bad guys are carrying guns, probably stolen guns, and they don't give two shits about a permit.
A criminal, by very definition of the word, does not care about the law. So, yeah, just asinine. There's some more good news. This is a piece from KOCO.com. Senate committee passes bill that would designate Oklahoma as a Second Amendment sanctuary state. An Oklahoma Senate committee approved a proposed bill that would designate the state as a Second Amendment sanctuary state. According to officials, the Senate Public Safety Committee approved Senate Bill 631, also known as the Second Amendment Sanctuary Act, in a 9-2 vote on Monday. The measure, authored by Senator Warren Hamilton, Republican, McCurtain, would make Oklahoma a Second Amendment sanctuary state. The bill would preempt any future legislation, rules, or ordinances by the federal government, state agency, or political subdivision in Oklahoma from infringing on citizens' Second Amendment rights, officials said. It would also prohibit any political subdivision from accepting any grant or fund to implement federal laws or regulations infringing on the right to keep and bear arms. SB 631 reaffirms our recognition of the self-evident truth that in America, power resides with the people, and reaffirms our oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, Hamilton said. It will serve as a wall of protection around our God-given, constitutionally protected right to keep and bear arms. The measure now moves to the Senate floor for further consideration. So, good for you, Oklahoma. If you live in Oklahoma, get on the horn to your people. Let your state senators know what you think about this, which, if you're watching or listening to this show, probably are in support of it, I would guess.
Sounds great, as long as the state, county, city officials, law enforcement judges, whatnot, actually stand their ground when the feds come, and knocking, because the feds will push back.
Yeah, maybe not.
Well, there's another state who took this a step further. In a county, actually, in Missouri. This is from dailywire.com. Sheriffs can arrest feds who violate citizens' gun rights, a new Missouri County ordinance says, from February 21st, 2021, by Hank Berrien. One Missouri county concerned that the federal government might infringe on the Second Amendment rights of its citizens passed an ordinance this month which would invalidate any such attempt by the federal government. The Second Amendment Preservation Act of Newton County, Missouri states, be it enacted by the Newton County, Missouri Commission as follows. All federal acts, laws, orders, rules, and regulations passed by the federal government, and specifically any presidential administration, whether past, present, or future, which infringe on the people's right to keep and bear arms as guaranteed by the Second Amendment to the United States in Article 1, Section 23 of the Missouri Constitution, shall be invalid in the county, shall not be recognized by this county, and specifically rejected by this county, and shall be considered null and void and of no effect in this county. Such acts, laws, orders, rules, and regulations include but are not limited to any tax levy, fee, or stamp imposed on firearms, firearm accessories, or ammunition not common to all other goods and services. Any registration or tracking of firearms, firearm accessories, or ammunition. Any act or ordering the confiscation of firearms, firearm accessories, or ammunition. And finally, any act, whether past, present, or future, passed by the United States Congress and signed into law by the federal government, and specifically any presidential administration which infringes on the people's right to keep and bear arms in Newton County, Missouri, shall be considered null and void by the county and not recognized by this county. The law adds, any and all federal agents trying to enforce the regulations listed in Section 1 shall be subject to arrest by the Sheriff's Department. The Missouri Constitution states that the right of every citizen to keep and bear arms, ammunition, and accessories typical to the normal function of such arms in defense of his home, person, family, and property, or when lawfully summoned in aid of the civil power, shall not be questioned. The rights guaranteed by this section shall be unalienable. Any restriction on these rights shall be subject to strict scrutiny, and the state of Missouri shall be obligated to uphold these rights and shall under no circumstances decline to protect against their infringement. Daniel Horowitz of The Blaze noted, the Second Amendment sanctuary movement has been growing throughout the country, with hundreds of counties passing some form of a declaration protecting gun rights from encroachments perpetrated by higher levels of government. The sanctuary movement has only recently come to the state of Missouri, with several counties declaring themselves Second Amendment sanctuaries and the state legislature pushing similar bills. But Newton County might have adopted the strongest language in the entire country, going so far as to criminalize enforcement or cooperation with federal law enforcement who seek to enforce such policies. So, notice that they mention the language stamp in there, and tax, and whatnot. So what they're saying is in Newton County, Missouri, if you build yourself a machine gun and the ATF come and shoot your dog and try to arrest you to throw you in jail, that the sheriff and his deputies can arrest them and prevent them from enforcing federal law. It would be interesting to see, from an academic perspective anyway, how that would play out in court. But I sure as hell wouldn't want to be the guinea pig for that. What do you guys think? Do you think this is an overstep of the county's authority, or do you think it's damn right and every county in the United States should do the same?
Didn't Kansas try to do this with NFA items and it didn't work, or it's still pending?
I'm not sure if that case is still pending, but yeah, the guy with the suppressor. I know Clover did by the way, go over to Clover Tech and check out his video that he did today about Texas gun bills coming up. Texas is trying to do the same thing with a made in Texas firearms or anything, or accessories, suppressors, etc. So yeah, there's a guy in Kansas who had a made in Kansas suppressor, and he's up on federal charges for not having a tax stamp. So again, academically speaking, it would be interesting to see how this plays out in court, whether a locality could supersede federal law and actually make county charges stick against a federal officer who is enforcing federal law. I honestly, I think this is virtue signaling, but you know, because I sure as shit wouldn't want to be the test case.
Well, as somebody who believes strongly in states' rights, I support it.
Yeah, I agree with Squib, and that's where now if we could get, this is pipe dream, of course. If you could get 75% or more of the counties in the country to enact something like this, maybe then there'd be enough weight of numbers to push back against the feds. But I don't ever foresee them, the feds allowing the states who the feds often feel are beneath them to garner that much, momentum on anything that opposes the federal power.
Can we try it in San Bernardino County?
I would love to see it happen. San Bernardino, Alameda, and a few others.
Yep.
I'd like to see it all over the country, but again, man, I wouldn't want to be the guy that's the test case for this one. I just wouldn't.
Okay, no.
But on the other hand,
extrapolate on that.
On the other hand, if I can I finish this thought just 1 second,
Sorry.
please? On the other hand, the Great Wall of China was started with just one block, right? Every skyscraper built, every large building built from bricks just starts with one brick. So, maybe if one does it, then another one will get laid beside it, and another one will get laid beside it, and pretty soon they're stacking bricks all up, and we've got something big. So I don't know. Please, Squib, go ahead and finish your thought, sir.
I should have said pardon me. Actually, that'd be more grammatically correct. So I'd like you to extrapolate on that. Why wouldn't you want your county to be the test county? What's the negative or the side effect or the backlash, or what's the concern?
Oh, no, I personally wouldn't want to be the guy to say build a machine gun saying, say Carroll County, Ohio says, you know what, we're a Second Amendment sanctuary, which we have, and says that no federal law has any force here, and we will arrest any federal officer who attempts to enforce federal law when it comes to gun laws in Carroll County, Ohio. I wouldn't want to be the guy then to get arrested for building a machine gun, even though my local ordinance, my county ordinance says you're perfectly able to do that, go right ahead. We all know federal law says that's a huge no-no with a $250,000 fine and 10 years in prison. I personally wouldn't want to be the guy to test that, because
okay.
I personally don't want to risk going to prison for 10 years and $250,000 fine and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, whatever else they could pile up on you to make you an example. Not me.
I misunderstood. You meant as the individual. I thought you meant
Yes.
like as the county.
No.
Let some other county try this and see if they get away with it. Then we'll try it. Oh,
No.
okay.
Me as, Michael Kreitzer from Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, this guy right here. Yeah, no. I don't have the money to fight that. I don't have the I ain't built for prison, man.
Got a little Shawshank action going on there.
Yeah, no thank you. I'm too pretty.
Yeah, and I don't know
Zudak
if
says, wishful thinking that the sheriff would stand up for you, but good on principle. Feds will just hold back some money and the state would cave. Please go ahead, Pickle.
I say that's where you don't think the supermodel poster on the wall would trick
no.
anybody.
Yeah, no. They've seen that movie too.
He brings up a good point about them pulling the federal money. Didn't Obama do that with the education department when he wasn't getting his way?
Yep, they do it with education. They do it with highways. They do it with anything. Anything that has federal money attached to it, if you try to buck the federal will, they will just pull the purse strings. And eventually, the municipalities, the the counties and the states cave because dollars almighty.
The municipalities, all the way up to the governor, don't have any spine. Be like, oh, you're going to pull the federal funds? We're going to pull our state revenue to the Treasury Department. Have a nice day.
Yeah, that's what they ought to do. So that was it for the main top. Who do I still have with me?
I'm still here.
Okay, I still have.
Yep, those sorts of things happen. People out in the audience will go, he rage quit. He didn't rage quit. Sometimes you got to go. Sometimes you have a technical diddly.
Yeah. Yep. Sometimes there's just a technical diddly and stuff happens. So, yeah. We will press on. You know, and yeah. I don't know. I think deliberately setting yourself up to be the test case for something like that would just be, it wouldn't be the wisest decision on your part. Speaking of not being the wisest decisions.
And now prepare yourself for another tale of stupidity in this episode of Moron of the Week.
News.com. Customers, staff, fired back in gun store before shooting. 3 dead by Stacy Plaisance. February 20th, 2021. Metairie, Louisiana. A person entered a gun store and shooting range in New Orleans suburb and fatally shot 2 people Saturday, prompting customers and staff to open fire on the shooter, a sheriff said. The shooter also died. The shooting happened around 2:50 p.m. at the Jefferson Gun Outlet in the suburb of Metairie, according to release from Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office. But, pardon me. By the way, I'm sure I'm butchering the pronunciation of that town. I apologize. Sheriff Joseph Lopinto said the shooter initially struck 2 people inside and then several other people, whether employees or store customers, opened fire on the shooter both inside and outside of the building. Outside the building, a man could be seen afterwards behind yellow police tape yelling, "Where is my son?" Guns and ammunition are sold in the front of the outlet that faces a main thoroughfare through Jefferson Parish. Customers who want to frequent the gun range generally go around the side entrance of the building. Staff who work there often wear a sidearm. Lopinto said 2 other people also were hit by gunfire and were hospitalized in stable condition. He said there were multiple shooters. We're trying to put it all together, the sheriff said during a short briefing with journalists. None of the dead or wounded were immediately identified, and details remain unclear. Tyrone Russell and Juanetta Joseph were both in a conceal and carry course at the store when they heard what they were both described as rapid firing. They said the gunfire sounded much louder than the usual muffled shooting that they are used to hearing inside the shooting range. We heard the gunshots and screaming, said Russell. When the police came, they escorted us out. I could see glass everywhere. It was just like a really scary scene. It got extremely loud, like a bomb almost, said Joseph, who hid with the other students under a table, not knowing if there were multiple shooters or if one was near the classroom. One instructor stayed with the students while 2 others left the room and headed toward the sound of gunfire. Russell said that when he was let out, he could see a guy laid out in the parking lot not far from his car, which was struck by bullets. He described seeing shattered glass, bullet casings strewn about the scene. Caution tape surrounded the business to keep onlookers from getting close to the scene, where ambulances and numerous law enforcement vehicles had converged. A neighboring Taco Bell eatery had been evacuated. Authorities remained at the scene as night fell. So, there you go. Some idiot went into a gun shop / shooting range and started shooting at the employees there. From what I understand from what I've read elsewhere, is that he either unholstered his gun and loaded it in there and wanted to go to the shooting range, and the clerk, anyhow, he got into some kind of altercation with the clerk, an argument with the clerk, him going basically, "Hey man, you can't do that," and guy says, "Wrong," you know, did the whole Terminator thing, and started shooting at the clerk. So everybody who was there shot back. So that's the first contestant, the gun range goober.
Budget?
Yeah.
Metairie.
Okay, thank
Metairie.
you. Metairie. Yeah, I knew I had that. I knew I had that one screwed. Next up, in Moron of the Week, is this piece from Breitbart. MSNBC's Hayes compares pro-gun Republicans to Osama bin Laden. MSNBC anchor Chris Hayes said Tuesday on his show All In that Republicans like Donald Trump Jr., Representatives Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who have posed with guns behind them, were akin to the terrorist Osama bin Laden. Hayes said, "It's been unclear for some time exactly what Donald Trump does, but like his father, he does love to make content. This weekend he posted a video of himself ranting about teachers' unions while posing with a wall full of guns. The whole thing had a here are my thoughts from my bunker vibe. Apparently, my gun up behind me would make me a terrorist as well." He continued, "As weird as this image is, it's kind of becoming a trend on the right. Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, owner of Shooter's Grill in Rifle, Colorado, where guns are welcome and seemingly encouraged on the premises, has built her political identity around guns. Boebert vowed to carry a Glock around D.C. and on Capitol Hill and released a video to make sure we all knew it. Last Thursday, she came zoomed into a virtual congressional hearing with just a mess of guns piled on the bookshelf behind her. AR-style rifles, a handgun just lying across a bunch of books. Boebert, who is raising 4 young boys, later tweeted that the guns are not in storage but are, quote, ready for use. Apparently, she just leaves them out because she fears she may need to fire multiple rounds of ammo at someone who comes into her den. Show pictures of terrorists, Hayes continued. Lots of people immediately noted that the use of guns that way as props and the implicit threat that comes with them has long and not necessarily great history for those around the globe. Osama bin Laden, for one, liked to pose in front of his bookcase with a gun prominently displayed. The Irish Republican Army would display guns in its propaganda posters and murals. Cuba revolutionaries posed with guns all the time, too. No single side of the spectrum has a monopoly on this aesthetic. You can see it all over the world. It is unquestionably the aesthetic of armed struggle, of revolution or insurrection." He added, "A movement or faction who puts images of guns, the celebration of guns, front and center in its political aesthetic is a movement that is engaging in something that we would not call the normal rhetoric of elected democratic politics. You can't escape the meaning of it. It communicates that they're committed to, or at the very least open to, the possibility of violent overthrow of the government or the existing order. Now in the Republican Party, it seems like it's becoming common and unremarkable. You'll remember Marjorie Taylor Greene posed with this gun in her campaign ads next to governmental members of Congress." So, Chris Hayes, you are contestant number 2 in Moron of the Week. This is another piece from Breitbart. Michigan AG Dana Nessel and County Commissioner after he showed a gun during a board meeting via Zoom. Breitbart News reported in January Commissioner Ron Klaus left his seat during a virtual meeting as a liberal activist demanded the board denounce the Proud Boys, which has no discernible presence in the area. Welcoming such a group and having that message go out has changed the environment of northern Michigan from a hunting culture to a gun culture, Kelly McIntosh claimed during the meeting, according to ABC7. As McIntosh spoke, Commission Vice Chairman Klaus left his seat and moments later returned with a rifle. He sat down with it across his lap, showing it on screen for about 4 seconds before setting it near his feet. He never pointed it at the camera. McIntosh, who did not respond to the incident during her remarks, told the news station, "I'm asking for a statement," and his response was shoving an assault rifle in my face. The activist then contacted the local prosecutor's office to demand an investigation into Klaus, according to the Traverse City Record Eagle. The case came to the attention of the AG's office after Grand Traverse County Prosecutor Noel Mogenberg filed a request for a special prosecutor following an investigation by the Michigan State Police into a complaint filed by a county resident. When contacted, State Police Lieutenant Derek Carroll confirmed an investigation is ongoing, but would not release any details. The AG's office is reviewing the case to determine what, if any, charges should be filed, Nessel spokesman Ryan Jarvie told the paper. There is no typical time frame for these types of reviews, but we will thoroughly examine the case material to determine whether additional action is warranted by our office, he added. McIntosh spoke at the meeting because she disagreed with the board's decision months prior to declare a county a Second Amendment sanctuary. "I believe Commissioner Klaus made a mistake. He didn't commit a crime," Commissioner Darrell V. Nelson told the paper. So, I've kind of changed my opinion on who's the moron in this case. Because there's going to be two of them. Because two people did something stupid here.
Can you
Number
elaborate?
one, what's that?
You were about to do what I was going to ask you to do. Never mind.
Number one is the, what the hell's her name? The Macintosh. No, I'm not. I was going to put Nessel as the moron, but I don't think she is. I think she's doing her job. She's investigating something that has to be investigated because there's a police report been made. I think Macintosh is a moron for making the police report. And I think Klaus is a moron for giving them ammunition to use against him. Because just because you can do a thing does not necessarily mean it's a good idea to do it.
Okay, what law did he break?
And he didn't break a law.
Okay, then...
But he's a politician, and he knows that the optics of that were going to be, particularly when you're talking with a snowflake. I wouldn't do it.
Doesn't matter. He didn't break a law. The Attorney General should go look for other stuff. She's there to deal with situations where the law has been broken. If the law wasn't broken, then she can go have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck up.
Okay, Richard.
Like that.
But those are our two morons for that one, Mr. Klaus and Ms. McIntosh. But wait, there's more, because we have another moron for us. This is a piece from thenextweb.com. Researchers propose ethically correct AI for smart guns that locks out mass shooters. A trio of computer scientists from the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in New York recently published research detailing a potential AI intervention for murder and ethical lockout. The big idea here is to stop mass shootings and other ethically incorrect uses for firearms through the development of an AI that can recognize intent, judge whether it's ethical use, and ultimately render a firearm inert if a user tries to ready it for improper fire. That sounds like a lofty goal, but in fact the researchers themselves refer to it as a blue sky idea. But the technology to make it possible is already here. According to the team's research, predictably, some will object as follows. The concept you introduce is attractive, but unfortunately it's nothing more than a dream. Actually, nothing more than a pipe dream. Is this AI really feasible science and engineering-wise? We answer in the affirmative confidently. The research goes on to explain how recent breakthroughs involving long-term studies have led to the development of various AI-powered reasoning systems. Reasoning systems that could serve to trivialize and implement fairly simple ethical judgment system for firearms. The paper doesn't describe the creation of a smart gun itself, but the potential efficacy of an AI system that can make the same kinds of decisions for firearms users as, for example, cars that can lock out drivers if they can't pass a breathalyzer. In this way, the AI would be trained to recognize the human intent behind an action. The researchers described the recent mass shooting at a Walmart in El Paso and offer a different view of what could have happened. Now, I'm not going to go on and read the rest of this, but these ridiculous researchers who think that an AI software can have the ability to make an ethical decision, frankly, I think they're just fucking idiots. Because how can a piece of software make any decision that it takes a sentient being to make? Because they're not sentient. AIs aren't at that level. Artificial intelligence ain't. So ridiculous researchers, you're the next contestant on Moron of the Week. And then finally, just because he's an idiot, Grandmaster Jay for his stupidity of pointing a rifle at police officers that he knew were there. So, Gun Range Goober, Chris Hayes, Macintosh, Klaus, Research Rejects, and Jay. Which one do you vote for as Moron of the Week, Squib?
Well, I wanted to go with the Alamo gun shop guy, but then you brought up the Michigan thing, but you won't let me vote for Nestle. So, Grandmaster Jay.
Grandmaster Jay says squib. Those of you who are out there who've seen the show before, you know what this is. This is time when you tell me what you think, which one should be the moron of the week. Gun Range Goober, Chris Hayes, Macintosh, Klaus, Research Rejects, and Jay. Let me know. Zudak says, let's give those guns to all the police first. Bernabe Sanchez says, I'm a Miller Lite fan myself, Squiblo.
Yeah, but light beer's for pussies. I've drank light beer myself, too.
Seven Wonders says, the fool who compared Boebert with Osama bin Laden is easily the biggest moron. So that's Chris Hayes. Carly Ellison says, Goober. Ozzy's barking at Jay. Let me know what you think, folks. Sound off and tell me. Right now, we got Jay winning by 1. The Hub 1964 votes for Chris Hayes, who is now tied with Jay. Bernabe says Jay. Squibload votes for beer.
Yep.
Right now we got 1 for Goober, 2 for Hayes, 3 for Jay. Zudak puts in a 4th for Jay. Poor Conservative says a 5th for Jay. Dude acts like he's been drinking a 5th, right? So we got Grandmaster Jay going once. Grandmaster Jay going twice. 7 says Grandmaster Jay is a daily moron. Well, yes, there he is. And Grandmaster Jay, you are this week's moron of the week.
And there we had another tale of stupidity in this week's episode of Moron
Now, he won
the
Moron of the
Week.
Week last year, and he won Moron of the Week this year. When you do Moron of the Decade, he's already, he's up there with Biden.
And he's already got 2 of them, right? I thought that moron of the year bracket was fun.
Yeah. It would be great, though, if we could just somehow or another get somebody to stand in front of a podium with some sort of award and just go, I'd like to accept this moron of the year on behalf of all the morons out there.
That would be great. Oh, come on, come on. Here we go. I bet I'm going to have a lot of pop-ups on this one. Ugh. It's taking a while to load. All right, folks, next up, those of you who've been here before know what's going on. For those of you who haven't been here before or who have not stuck around to the end, next up is Roll Call 219's favorite segment, Self-Defense Shoutouts.
Yay!
Self-defense shoutouts are not where I'm reveling in the proposition that the bad guy won the room temperature challenge by taking a dirt nap. It's where I'm reveling in the proposition that the good guy had the means, method, and opportunity to prevent the bad guy from making him do the same. And first up is this piece from theperrynews.com. Homeowner kills nighttime invader in Wapello County by the Perry News, February 19th. Ottumwa, Iowa. A man was shot and killed Thursday night in rural Wapello County after forcibly entering a home defended by an armed homeowner. A statement issued Friday morning by the Wapello County Sheriff's Office said their agency received a 911 call about 9:15 p.m. by a caller who explained that a male subject was attempting to gain entry into the residence located between Ottumwa and agency on 97th Avenue. Preliminary investigation indicate the intruder did forcibly enter the home and was shot by the homeowner inside the residence, the sheriff's statement said. The intruder was pronounced dead after being flown by air ambulance to the University of Iowa hospitals and clinics. The investigation is ongoing, and the identity of the dead man is being withheld pending notification of his next of kin. So, glad that the homeowner was able to defend themselves against the depredations of a douchebag. Next up, from 6abc.com by Trish Hartman from February 21st. Woman shoots, injures intruder in North Philadelphia, police said. Philadelphia police say a woman turned the tables on an intruder early Sunday morning, shooting and critically injuring him. Officers responded to the home in the 3100 block of Arbor Street at about 2:50 a.m. The woman told police she shot the man once in the leg as he was trying to break into her home. 2 women were inside the house at the time. The 32-year-old male suspect was taken to an area hospital where he underwent surgery. He is currently listed in critical condition. Police say the gun the woman used was legally registered. The 2 women were taken in for questioning, but no charges have been filed. Police say one of the victims did know the suspect. Well, maybe he'll think twice next time he wants to get up to no good and start making trouble, right? Next up, from KSLA.com, man shot while trying to burst by Curtis Hand of Bienville Parish, Louisiana. A man was fatally shot Sunday morning outside a business in the Bienville Parish town of Ringgold, authorities say. And preliminary investigation indicates the truck driver who fired the gun acted in self-defense, Sheriff John Balance said. Jonathan Rainey, 35, died at a hospital after having been shot at Potluck and Liquor, the sheriff confirmed. The business in the 3900 block of U.S. Highway 371 was closed when Rainey repeatedly tried to break the glass there about 5:10 a.m. Sunday, Balance said. When that failed, Rainey began trying to break the glass on a Big Rigs cab. While hanging from a side mirror, the sheriff said, Rainey repeatedly kicked the window on the driver's side door, then on the passenger side. The truck driver, with permission from Potluck and Liquor, was asleep in his cab at the time. The trucker told investigators that he was fearing for his life and shot Rainey multiple times, Balance said. Rainey later died at the hospital. Investigators are awaiting an autopsy to determine whether Rainey was under the influence of any drugs, the sheriff added. Next up, from KY3.com, West Plains, Missouri Police Department investigates home burglary shooting. This is from February 22nd, 2021. Police say a man suffered serious injuries after a shooting during a home burglary in West Plains. Officers responded to a burglary call around 1 a.m. in the 500 block of Pennsylvania Avenue. Officers learned the homeowner shot the man on the front porch of the home. Officers found the man shot in the area of Minnesota and 2nd Street. Emergency crews airlifted him to a Springfield hospital with serious injuries. Police believe this is an isolated incident. The investigation is ongoing. And last, but most certainly not least, from the Detroit News, second. Police are investigating 2 separate shootings Monday in Detroit where potential robbery victims had guns of their own and fired back, wounding their attackers. The first took place about 12:40 a.m. at a BP gas station on the 2100 block of Gratiot? Is that how you say that? Gratiot. On the 2100 block, see, I remembered that they kind of how to pronounce that one.
Yeah, it looks like Gratiot for those out there. If you were to phonetically pronounce it, it would be Gratiot. But it's a lot of stuff here is French from foreign influence from, before we were a territory and then a state. So it's actually pronounced Gratiot. Emphasize the shit.
Yes. On the 2100 block of Gratiot, said Latrice Crawford, a Detroit Police Department spokeswoman. That's on Detroit's east side at St. Alban. Police say a man, 29, was pumping gas into his black Dodge Ram 1500 when a man, 30, approached him armed and demanded he give up his vehicle. The victim, who holds a concealed license permit, had a gun too and fired at the man, who also fired his gun. Both men were hit. The victim was shot in the leg. Medics transported him to a hospital, and he's listed in temporary serious condition. The man who tried to take his vehicle fled on foot, but a suspect was arrested a short time later. He'd been shot in his buttocks, police said, and is listed in serious condition. 2 hours later, about 2:40 a.m. on the 14200 block of Mack, east of Chalmers, a 43-year-old man exchanged gunfire with a man who tried to rob him. Police say the victim was outside a building when a man, 35, allegedly approached him. The two men fought and gunfire was exchanged, and both men were wounded. The victim was listed in temporary serious condition. The suspect was listed in critical condition. So there you have it, folks. Despite what the antis will tell you, people use firearms to defend themselves lawfully all the time. And on that note, we're going to wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for coming and being a part of this conversation tonight. I'd like to thank the Tactical Pickle, Calaveras 32 Special, for being here earlier. Go check his YouTube channel out, and let's see if we can get his subscriber numbers pumped up. He does some good stuff. Speaking of doing some good stuff, is there anything you'd like to leave us with, Squib? Where can people find your stuff? And you have any words of wisdom for us?
Well, first, I'd like to thank you for letting me use your show to do a ad hoc Speaking Squibbish. And then secondly, I'd like to point out the fact that you had some positive 2A news and the self-defense shout out. So I think those kind of negate the whole premise of you being a fear-mongering kind of guy.
Well, you know, I like to start out with the dire news and then move to good news and then do the lighthearted moron thing and then end with the self-defense shout-outs. I've done that since day one of the show. And it's kind of going to be the format going forward, too.
Yeah, and you know what? It gives it good flow.
Good. Well, thank you. Well, where can people find you?
Don't find me.
Oh, okay.
Find channels like yours, but don't find me.
Okay, there you go. Well, I want to thank everybody out there in the chat for coming by, both the regulars and the new people. Again, love the interaction. I love the conversation. Don't be afraid to let me know what you think. Just, you know, be respectful like everybody has tonight. So awesome on that. You guys could be doing absolutely anything on a Friday night, and you're here speaking with us, and I think that's great. You know, go check out, again, the link below. If you're in the Northeast Ohio area, come check out the survival class with me, and let's hang out and do some, hang out in the woods and do some stuff, man. Looking forward to it. You know, we have constantly to be vigilant to protect our Second Amendment rights so that we don't go the way of Canada and have our rights transformed into privileges, because privileges are given and they can be taken away. Send your congressmen, congress critters, and elected representatives emails, snail mails, telephone, telegraph, carrier pigeons, smoke signals, bicycle messengers, tom-toms, semaphores, anything you have to do to let them know what you think. And never, ever, ever give up the fight.